4 bullets tore through Tupac Shakur on September 7th, 1996, changing hip-hop forever.
Tupac Shakur.
The Tupac case is simple.
There's not going to be anybody charged with his murder because the shooter's dead.
But what if he had survived? What if the ambulance had arrived just 3 minutes earlier, or if he'd worn his bulletproof vest that night? After analyzing police reports, medical experts' testimonies, and interviews with those closest to Tupac, I've discovered something shocking. Tupac was already planning to leave Death Row Records the week after Vegas. His survival wouldn't just have meant more music. It would have completely transformed hip-hop's business model, potentially prevented Biggie's murder, and altered the entire trajectory of music and activism for a generation. The man who famously rapped,
I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world, and that's our job.
might have actually lived to see it happen. This isn't just an alternate history, it's an exploration of how one man's survival could have reshaped our cultural landscape forever. It was chaos in every direction, bright lights, screaming fans, the thunder of Tyson's knockout still buzzing in the air. But for Tupac Shakur, the real fight was just beginning. Moments after leaving the MGM Grand, his adrenaline still high, Tupac spots someone in the crowd. Orlando "Baby Lane" Anderson, the man who robbed one of his crew weeks earlier. And just like that, fists fly. Cameras catch it all. In one impulsive moment, a Vegas lobby turns into a war zone. And the countdown to tragedy begins. But here's where the timeline splits. In our version of events, Tupac pauses just for a second. He lets security do their job. No punches, no brawl, no escalation. He laughs it off, walks away, and everything changes. Back in the real world, that brawl wasn't just a scuffle, it was a signal. A flare lit in enemy territory. Hours later, Suge Knight's BMW is crawling through a Vegas intersection. Tupac in the passenger seat. A white Cadillac pulls up, shots ring out. 4 of them rip into Tupac's body. One grazes his lung, another punctures his hip. His blood stains the leather seats. 6 days later, he's gone. But in our version, Tupac is still in that car, still lit from the Tyson fight, still breathing the desert air, but he's wearing his vest. He almost didn't. It's Vegas. It's hot. It's uncomfortable. But tonight, for some reason, he puts it on. Maybe it's instinct. Maybe it's fate. The shots still come, the Cadillac still rolls up, the trigger still gets pulled, but this time, he survives. 6 hours later, he's out of surgery, broken, yes, but alive. And the world? It doesn't know what to do with that. Because Tupac wasn't just a rapper, he was a force, a contradiction. A man with one foot in revolution and the other in revenge. And now with a second chance, the question isn't just what Tupac would have done, it's what he was already planning to do, and how surviving that night might have turned the entire music industry inside out. The headlines were surreal. Tupac lives. Rap's Most Wanted survives Vegas hit. Some celebrated, others panicked. Death had already written its script. Candlelight vigils, tribute freestyles, murals going up in Brooklyn and Compton, DJs spinning Dear Mama like it was his eulogy. The world was ready to mourn, but Tupac wasn't ready to die. Not yet. The hospital was under lockdown, guards outside his door, nurses screened, visitors searched, paparazzi lenses flashed through parking garage vents. One fan even tried to sneak in dressed as a janitor. Security caught him just outside the ICU. He spends 3 weeks in recovery, not just healing but watching. Eyes on the news, ears to the street. Friends visiting in shifts, some of them with that "you were supposed to be gone" look in their eyes. One night, a nurse finds a hidden mic taped under Tupac's nightstand. Another, a death row exec, shows up. No flowers, no card, just a clipboard and questions. The tension builds. Suge Knight, once at his bedside every day, now barely shows. Death row insiders whisper about paranoia, missed payments, contracts being reconsidered. Tupac's mother, Afeni, is there almost every night, quietly watching, quietly reminding him, you don't owe them anything. Tupac listens. Then he starts writing. Pages and pages, rhymes, rants, strategy, a new kind of fire. Darker, more surgical. He begins recording voice notes, not for a mixtape, but for evidence, just in case. If anything happens to me, y'all know who did it. The label wants him to lay low. Tupac wants a press conference, a diss track, a reckoning. He makes one call, a quiet one, to a lawyer he met months earlier, someone who doesn't wear red. He replays the shooting in his head, the Cadillac, the flash, the pain, and then the silence. The long, awful silence. And one question keeps spinning in his mind. Why didn't they finish the job? It's not paranoia, it's pattern recognition. And beneath it all, a plan is forming. The name was no accident. Makaveli. The alter ego Tupac birthed in the weeks before the shooting, inspired by Niccolo Machiavelli, the philosopher who preached manipulation, deception, power plays. Only now Makaveli wasn't just a concept, he was the plan. As soon as Tupac could sit upright, he was sketching logos. Makaveli Records, his own label, no more middlemen, no more shug, no more chains disguised as contracts. He didn't want to be the face of death row anymore. He wanted to be the architect of something new. Sources close to him say he was already negotiating real estate in Atlanta, a compound, part studio, part community center, a place where artists could own their masters, speak their truths, and move without fear. And the music, it was shifting. Gone was the scattered rage of hit 'em up. In its place, something colder, smarter, songs that sounded less like diss tracks and more like blueprints. He recorded dozens of tracks, some with encrypted titles, some with double meanings, all of them soaked in warning. Behind closed doors, people started switching sides. Lawyers, bodyguards, even some of Shug's own inner circle. They saw what was coming. Tupac wasn't just trying to leave death row, he was planning to replace it. And yet, every move he made fast. Almost like he knew time was still hunting him. It started with a phone call, not from Biggie, not directly, but from someone in his circle, an olive branch after months of silence. Word was Biggie wanted to talk, said he was tired, said he didn't trust anyone else to end this war but Tupac. Tupac didn't say yes, not right away, but something about that message stuck. Maybe it was guilt, maybe it was pride, maybe it was the fact that deep down they both knew they were mirror images of the same broken system. Plans were made, quietly, no media, no entourages, just two legends, a room, and maybe a chance to unwrite the beef that divided a coast. They were supposed to meet in Atlanta, a neutral zone. Tupac had already scouted the space, dimly lit, off-grid, protected. He even wrote a verse the night before, not a diss, not a threat, a verse about peace, a verse about legacy. But that moment never came. March 9th, 1997. Biggie's in LA for the Soul Train Awards. He's prepping to fly out the next morning. Maybe talk, maybe record, maybe finally rebuild what they'd both helped burn down. Then a red light, a Chevy Impala, gunshots. It's over in seconds. Tupac finds out from a late night call. Same voice, same circle, but no more olive branches. Just a hollow, stunned silence. Biggie's gone, and for the second time in less than a year, the world stands still. Tupac never gets closure. The Biggie meeting, it becomes myth. A moment that could have healed a genre, instead, it haunts him. But Tupac doesn't fade, he evolves. Makaveli Records launches that summer. Independent, black-owned, artist-controlled. The first signees, outlaws. A young poet from Atlanta, a radical MC from Chicago, the kind of artist who used to rap for survival, now rallying crowds with a mic in one hand and policy notes in the other. In this timeline, there's no Napster Tupac, no flashy comeback tour. He skips the MTV Awards, avoids the talk shows. He shows up in Ferguson, he shows up in Flint. He raps less, speaks more, drops surprise EPs with titles like Letters to a Dead Friend and Thug Nation. Each one sharper, angrier, more surgical than the last. In 2004, he posts his first blog entry. You can't kill a revolution just by shooting one man. And when social media hits, Makaveli adapts. Viral videos of him at protests, teaching kids how to freestyle in community centers, refusing to sign with major labels. He builds a digital empire off integrity. Every interview ends with the same question. What if Biggie made it too? Tupac never answers, because in this timeline, a Tupac Shakur lives. But the ghosts, they never leave. This was one version of the story, one timeline where Tupac lived, and the world shifted around him. But what do you think? If Tupac had survived, really survived, what would he have done after music? Politics? Film? A revolution? And should we tell the story where Biggie lives? Drop your take in the comments. I want to hear the wildest, realest, most thought-provoking visions you've got. And if you're into these alternate timelines, cultural what-ifs, and stories that blend history with imagination, subscribe. Because this is just the beginning.
Mr. Shakur, can we get a comment from you at all?
Hell no. Thug life.
No,
Thug life. Thug life. That's my comment.
what's that mean? I don't understand.
This is yours.